Welcome to Talking in Stations, a podcast about EVE Online. I am Matt Arall, your host. Today we're going to talk about all the events happening in EVE Online and some of the stuff that's going on with Talking in Stations. We'll talk about Black Ops. We'll talk about that big battle for the Aszbel in Pochven and how dramatic that was, among many other things. We have the CSM election happening right now, and that has another couple days before that one is completely closed, and we'll find out who the winners are shortly thereafter. With me to discuss all this, TIS subject matter experts, starting with Arsia. Elkin.
Hello. Hello. Good to be here.
Kenneth Feld from Pandemic Legion.
Good morning. Good morning.
Rich Richmond.
From sunny England. Good afternoon.
Can tell by that black hole behind you. We have Suitonia from Volta.
Hello. You can also tell how sunny England is by my background too.
And Nick Bison, who's with us as well. Push to talk.
And he is also muted.
Yeah, it's my turn.
All right. That's Nick Bison there. All right, everybody on camera, which is great. It's good to see all your sunny faces. Let's talk some EVE Online. First thing I'll do, though, is run back through the week. We'll do a review of that. Then we'll get into the later on the Black Ops stuff that we wanted to talk about. But on Monday, we had the magical Mike Azraya. So that was an interview, our only interview with a CSM candidate, Mike, who we wanted to talk to and get more of his story out. So check that one out. Again, CSM is actually happening right now, and you have about 3 days or maybe 2 days to actually vote before that all gets closed. Okay, so on Tuesday we had patch day. I don't know, do you guys remember what happened on this last Tuesday's patch notes?
New gates, mobile observatories, and a few fixes.
Yeah. There was also some login rewards. Those will be finishing up along with the CSM election. But the new gates went in. Let's actually start there. What do you guys think of those new gates?
A man had a dream of a gate to Stain, and he relentlessly pursued this goal. And for that, he has been rewarded with what he desires most, what he lusts for. There is now a gate from the Empire space straight into Stain. So we'll have to see how this changes Stain. It's a massive region. The locals are varied. And I hope Stain becomes a far more popular place, because I personally hated the region because it felt dead to me whenever I had a wormhole to there.
I don't think I think the more interesting thing with that gate actually is not the route to Stain or getting to Stain earlier. It's getting to period basis a lot sooner. Because now you've got I think it's like a 13 jump from Empire to period basis now. Whereas before it used to be like well over 20 jumps, probably approaching 30 jumps. So it's going to be a lot, and where it is as well is really close to like the path you take to Delve or to Paragon Soul. So it's going to be a lot easier to roam around that area of space now, which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah.
There is one tiny little island on that route, and it is completely low-sec. And I can say for a fact that quite a few groups are planning their move there. They want to take that and hold down that one low-sec region and reap its profits from travelers that go through.
Also, the Stain guy, isn't he retiring now that he's done his mission?
He said he would biomass on Reddit if CSP ever made the gate. So I guess now he needs to biomass his character.
I think there was a forum thread about it that I was linked at some point. I think
He'll be retiring this identity, but he is not gone forever.
It was always an alt, wasn't it? It was some character.
He has actually biomassed his character Stain guy.
Okay, so he's...
So this is the commemoration stream for Stain guy. It's like whatever year to whatever year.
Yeah, moment of silence, Stain guy.
I think he still has a main in Goonswarm though, so he isn't completely gone from the game.
That's right. He's supposed to be an alt of somebody. Does anybody know who the main character was? That been revealed?
How long before F7 Tech has a keep star on that gate?
The Stain gate?
The
Not
stains
sure.
there.
Well,
Yeah.
the stain guy that had been, so for those that don't know, the gag was there was always this guy that would appear on Reddit and forums, I think mostly on Reddit, and he would always say like, hey CCP, wouldn't it be a great idea to put a gate into stain? Now, why would anybody want a gate into stain? What were the properties of stain that merited putting a gate there?
It's very terrible to get into it.
Go
Well,
ahead.
slaves. Everyone would go down there to farm slaves, and then
Slave
so
implants.
it was slave implants, which are now amulets. I think.
Amulets.
Yeah. So it was very profitable for the high end missions, and I'm pretty sure there's quite a few officers that have been snagged down there as well. So the area was used for making ISK by a lot of players from a lot of different alliances. Of course, probably all on alts, but nevertheless, that area was farmed pretty hard for the implants.
Dirty people working for the Sancha, the space zombies. Take a shower.
Nick,
Yeah,
okay.
Stain has the most systems out of any region. It also has the most level 4 mission agents, and actually has like 3 good constellations for running level 4s, especially burners. But the problem with Stain, right, there was only 3 ways to get into them, like going like north from Esoteria, going into it from the east, from west side of the map, but east into Stain from period basis, or coming down south through like the head GP route, which was almost always permacamped. So it was really hard to get access to Stain. But now with the fourth entrance now, effectively, which is probably also going to be camped really badly too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot easier to get into Stain now, in theory.
Well, I'm wondering how long before the novelty runs off and the camps become less and it gets to be more of a thoroughfare.
I mean, that
Yeah,
depends on how many people go through the camps, right? Like, if a lot of people use it, it's not going to die down.
And it'll be very useful for test and the people living in period basis, I imagine, because it basically halves the direct jump route from Empire Space, from Tashmerkon to period basis. So.
Yeah. Is it actually quicker to get into Delve through period basis now than it is to go through Aquarius, for instance?
It may be from Amar, but I'm not too sure about that. I think it's about 18, 19 jumps to get to Delve from Amar now, if you go through this Stain way. I'm not sure how far away Salmoner is from Amar, but it probably works out maybe about the same, I'd imagine. But at least it'll be a lot faster to get to the southern side, where the OK Fem pocket, which is the gas mining constellation in Delve.
So as far as like pirates are concerned, not Sov holding pirates, but pirates that want to raid other people's Sov, this is a really good thing for them, isn't it?
Yes, especially if you want a PvP in period basis and Paragon Soul, because before those regions were very, very far away from NPC space. Period basis was probably one of the most defensible regions in the game because of that, because not only because of the way the region is designed, but also because it was like super far away from Empire space, but now it's way closer.
Yeah, it's a very long region, which means capitals have a harder time moving around in a radius.
Did they fix that problem where you couldn't micro warp on grid with the new gates?
Yes. That was in Thursday's patch notes. Let me check.
Yeah, it took them 2 days to fix it. I think they fixed it 2 days after it came out.
Well, explain that, Arsia. I didn't quite catch that point.
All right, so when the new gate first came out, when you were on grid with the gates, like you warp to the gates and you see it on your in space, you couldn't activate a micro warp drive. But if you go through a gate and somebody's camping it, you want to crash gate or something, right?
You need
so
that micro warp
that's
drive.
a really, really bad thing that to not be able to use. But it sounds like they fixed it 2 days after. I actually only saw.
No, it was actually fixed the next day. It was in Wednesday's patch notes.
Next day. So that's good. Yeah, that's something that needs to be addressed right away. So I'm glad to hear they did. I just saw one of the new gates for the first time yesterday when I came out of a wormhole after roaming, and I was actually in the system that connected to the gate to Solitude, because I found a wormhole back to Losec, and I'm like, yay, back home. And I looked at the gate to Solitude, and it has the little monument. It's really cool.
Yeah. That's right. So it was bugged when they put the gates in. There was a bug, and they fixed that bug. So
Yeah.
not to worry.
Sounds like next day, so that's good.
Yeah. Also on last weekend, but we covered it on Tuesday, was the PvP party. You're invited to join 10 years of celebration of public PvP event in New Eden. And
Specter fleet.
yeah, it was a Specter fleet. Yeah, red versus blue, actually.
Oh.
This is the Gank fleet. Sorry, it was red versus blue, but Specter fleet was in there too, I believe. Yeah, Ganked 500 it was called.
Wasn't it NPSI where red and blue were together and they joined with Specter or someone and went after everyone else?
Yeah, I don't know the particulars of it, but that makes sense. But they did destroy, I think it was CCP Alpha that put in a Titan, and it was a Leviathan, I think, and it was destroyed as part of that whole celebration. So
there were two fights for it. One of them was in Tama, the other one was in, let me double check, because the FC sacrificed his super carrier at the time. Kamala.
Yeah.
It's their 500 ganked fleet, which is their, used to be monthly, now it's weekly, where they get huge numbers of various pilots from all areas New Eden, and then they take them out and go on a roam. So I wish the best for Spectre fleet in their future, well, NPSI goodness. It's a great place to learn.
Yeah, so good for Alpha doing that. I think Alpha actually later, I saw him, one of his tweets, was it? No, it was maybe an entry in Reddit. He was basically saying to a player, a little bit of scandal here, right? A player said, "Hey, CCP, this is broken, fix your stuff." He said it in a different way, of course. And Alpha was like, "Oh, thanks for putting it out here instead of reporting it on a ticket." And then players jumped on Alpha saying like, "Oh, that's not very professional," or whatever. And it was like, I don't know. There's a lot to do about nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and this was Sissy too. It's not like it was even on TQ.
That's right.
It was on Sissy, and they explicitly said that, hey, the Black Ops stuff is up, but some of it's buggy. And rather than help out, some player decided that, just it was almost a bash type thread in my mind. But whatever. I've made more bug reports since I joined the CSM than I did probably my 10 years before that, with the exception of leading up or around the Citadel expansion. But it's just crazy the way people think that, oh, yeah, I'm not going to report this in game where it can actually get fixed. I'm just going to go crap all over Reddit and see what happens.
It's credit. What did they call it? Credit. No, rep grinding.
Credits.
That's it.
Karma, do you mean?
Yeah, karma grinding, but reputation grinding. Like, you put yourself out there in opposition of CCP, and it augments your profile in EVE Online if you're correct.
I mean, I don't know about that, man. It makes you look like a a bit of a slime ball.
I think if you're channeling other people's anger, that's one way to run in front of the parade. There's other ways, but that's one.
Trying to bring everybody else down doesn't make you any less of a, bad word.
I know. I agree with that. It's much harder to build a positive reputation than it is to be somebody's pain in the ass. Okay.
I mean, Reddit just has a natural tide, right? Where 1 week it's just everyone bashing on CCP for every little indiscretion possible, and then the next week it's all sunshine and rainbows, and the week after that it goes back to bashing CCP because of one line of text in a patch note where they broke some geometry on some ship no one uses or something.
So to avoid, I highly doubt that it's ever been sunshine and rainbows, and that's usually why I avoid it.
Okay, but the heroin needles and the trash on the street gets swept to one side for about a week, and then it's back there again. The next week.
One other thing the patch broke that not many people have talked about is there for a little while you could not save a POS password.
Oh,
that seemed to be a much bigger deal than I thought it was ever going to be.
Oh, I think it worked, but whenever you logged out, and you logged back in, it didn't.
It didn't save it.
So the POS just launched you and you logged in.
So yeah, looking out in a POS and a super is pretty dangerous.
Well, if you were high enough up to change the POS password, then you weren't going to get ejected. It was someone else that would have gotten ejected.
Yeah. So for those that don't know the way player-owned star bases used to work, which are POSs, POS, is that if you had the password, you could enter the force field. If you didn't have the password, you couldn't enter. If you were inside the force field and you lost access to the password, the force field would shoot you into space. It would eject you. And that was actually used as a combat tactic sometimes. If you had a fleet that was trapped inside of a pause because surrounding the force field was the enemy waiting to kill them, the FC would pull the password or change it. And everybody that didn't have the correct password, which was everybody, would get ejected. That was called starbursting. And it was a way of like shooting everybody into space in multiple directions. And then from wherever they landed, they could warp away to safety. And that was something that used to happen. So for it to happen here unexpectedly because the game client wasn't saving your password, you could have unexpected results with that kind of an error, that kind of a bug.
Yeah, it could also be used if there was a bunch of dreads around your POS shooting you and they were in siege and you ejected people into them. It could bounce you into them and move them far enough away that they could no longer hit the POS. And depending on where you were on time, it could actually save it.
Oh, the starburst tactic, you mean?
Right, yeah. You starburst yourself into the opposing fleet.
Yeah, hundreds of people.
Knock them out of the way enough that they're, if they had a dread with short-range guns, you knock them 100K away, then they can't hit it.
And they can't travel because they're in siege for, what, 10, 15 minutes?
Correct.
Yeah. I've never heard
siege
that.
Is 5 minutes.
It's kind of like a grenade.
Yeah, well, it was 10. Back when the time we're talking about, it was
right.
10.
It used to be 10, right? I just got in trouble for saying it was 10 minutes.
You used to be able to use the AoE Doomsday to kill people inside POSs if you had the POS password. That's like really old school.
You used to be able to shoot the Doomsday through the jump portal, like to shoot a Sino.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And you used to be able to Sino inside of a POS.
Well, totally broken.
You used to be able to smart bomb inside a POS too if you had the passwords. You could like kill the labs and the like corp hangars and stuff if you had the password and you were in the smart bombing ship.
Well, all that makes sense to me though. If you could infiltrate because you had the password, you should be able to like just annihilate everything in that room. That totally makes sense. But anyway, a little bit of interesting things happening with the code as it changes. Okay, so on the next day we talked about. Oh, by the way, we'll get to CSM. We'll talk about it because Suitonia and Arsia and Kenneth and Rich are all CSM candidates for CSM 16. So you still have a few days to vote for any of them. Looks like Nick, you and I, didn't run this year.
I'm holding out for CSM 20.
That's right.
So talk to me in a couple of years.
Let's run together. We'll make a ticket. So we'll talk about CSM after we get through this news here. Then on Wednesday, we talked about the Pochven fight over in Azbel, and that happened right when we were going to air. So it literally, the fight happened, the fight concluded, and 2 minutes later, we were on air with some footage, talking to Sado, talking to Noros, talking to Arsia about what happened. And I think Arsia came in, said a few things, and then went back to her party where they're obviously splashing champagne over each other like they won some championship because a lot of emotion, right?
Yeah, it was that, and we were like still getting people back into our area in Pochven from where I should have. It was we mostly had extracted, but yeah, there's a lot to go on. We had to like go harass the people looting because it's like a wormhole where all the stuff is ejected into space. We didn't even really do that seriously. We just had some light stuff go out. Everybody was tired.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll save some time for that at the end there. Okay. Also on in the middle of this week, we got some reporting that Siege Green was moving to Esoteria to take on Army of Mango. And that was pretty interesting because they both share the same time zone. Now, Siege Green is a low-sec group. They're not really looking for SOV. but they are Korean and Japanese time zone, which is the same time zone as Army of Mango, which is Chinese time zone. So we expected a lot more. We expected some action here because you can't time zone tank this opponent, right? So these guys are fighting at the same hour, same day. They're usually on same time. So we saw some fights break out, and Siege Green went right to work on Esoteria, just setting some timers, attacking some structures that would make Army of Mango have to defend. Anybody know anything about that conflict?
Well, I know it's apparent that Noros orchestrated this.
Well, is that true? Did he? Okay,
That's what I've heard.
Noros is the leader of Fraternity. Now, Fraternity and Army of Mango are not friendly. Even though they're fighting on the same side for this war, they're both part of the Pappy Coalition, but they are not friendly to one another. And so the rumor was, but I wasn't sure this was confirmed or not, that Noros, the leader of Fraternity, hired Siege Green to go and harass Army of Mango.
I believe he made a comment on it during the stream we did 3 days ago. The video should be on YouTube, but I believe he did.
But wasn't he being sarcastic? Or
who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Well, I mean, he was trying not to laugh when he answered you, so I'm guessing that Norris definitely did hire them.
Okay, so it was seeping out of him.
I mean, he has been leading a Black Ops campaign against them for the last 2 months, so you know.
Right.
He did have the same look on his face that the gentleman in Pochven that said, "Yeah, that's the last structure," had.
Yeah. So what's the deal? Why would Noros care about Army of Mango at this time? Why is he attacking them?
Because he wants to make sure they're weak, you know, because they're rivals, and Noros is getting really strong while almost everyone else is either staying at the same strength or getting much weaker, and he's making sure that the Mangoes are also getting weaker too, because Mangoes aren't really on the front lines. They're more, holding ADMs and space for a legacy rather than like on the front lines, risking their ships like a lot of people in Legacy and PanFam, etc.
Just because they are in the same combined coalition does not mean they are safe from the long arms of Fraternity.
Well, they have diverging interests after the war, I think. So you're right. Keeping them soft, keeping them off balance is a prudent thing, I would assume. Noros thinks. Another thing was weapons of mass production moved into Geminate.
Yes, they've since announced their plans to depart from Pureblind. I wish them well, and now they're attempting to take Sov in Geminate. I believe the current group there would be Psychotic Tendencies.
Yeah, and Darkside as well, who had the constellation that I think they'd taken all of the iHubs in the 2 constellations that they wanted to take, although Tissue were able to kill 2 of their iHubs, I think, a few days ago. I think they've just replaced them, but I know Tissue have at least been causing some trouble for them.
I think this is going to be quite an interesting campaign, with the fact that Weapons of Mass Production is quite a newer group compared to Darkside and Tissue. I think this
they are working with Winterco quite heavily, though. So
the structures they have in Pureblind, I believe, would be sold to Flying Dangerous, whom I recently did a show on as well. So
that's right.
Things are moving for a lot of the smaller independent null alliances as this war rages on down south.
If I'm not mistaken, they all voted together too, didn't they? Or is that a rumor? I saw a ballot for CSM. Yeah, for CSM, I saw a ballot for Volta. I think actually, Suitonia, you would know about that. You were number 1 on their ballot. Volta makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's the Volta internal ballot, and it's also the same ballot that's been suggested to the Volta coalition, which is called the Greater Trash Community, or it used to be called Hostile States, but it's mostly just Volta, Toilet Paper, Hysteria, Scumlords, those kind of guys. The guys who live in Pureblind and around that area.
So it was Volta's suggestion you might want to vote for these guys. Is that any indication that they're colluding in other ways?
Well, you mean it's a power block in Pureblind. That's
definitely
mutual defense against big blocks.
Okay.
I'll have to ask Flying Dangerous and Weapons of Mass Production. I'll have to message Zip and Thanak about it.
I don't think WOMP were part of that coalition.
They've always prided themselves on being independent, so I don't think they are.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not saying they are in Winterco. I'm just saying they're working with Winterco right now against Tissue and Darkseid, who are enemies of Frat.
I think it's going to be quite an interesting campaign. I think this might be Thanak's another trial by fire for him. Darkseid and Tissue are quite strong opponents to try and take Solve from, even with the help of Winterco.
Describe who
I mean,
is.
a lot of the Solve wasn't actually held. Darkseid had the TCUs, but I think only 3 of the systems had iHubs. So they basically just put up iHubs there because none of the systems had iHubs already. And I think they might have destroyed like 1 or 2 of the Darkseid iHubs in the systems they actually had iHubs in. But it was mostly just TCUs that Darkseid held, and they haven't really shown like too much want to defend them.
I think Hysteria, a few of their corps have rebranded to Into the Blue now.
Oh yeah, and also some of the Volta US time zone guys merged into them, like Rots Corporation.
Yeah, some
into the Ever
things. Some interesting things are brewing up in Pure Blind. I like the region. I'm going to go back to it.
Well,
aren't you still technically there, Rich? If you're part of Plucky, you're like the guys live in Torinos, right?
Yes. We were holding down the EC Torinos gate yesterday, so I'm still there.
Well, there you go. Okay, so and then later on, there's a few things we're going to bust into topics wise. And talk about CSM, talk about that Azbel kill. We'll also talk about the Black Ops changes and see what you guys think of those. But first, there's a little bit more news that happened on Friday, and that was Komodo was wiped out in fraternity space. Komodos are faction titans, and they are very, very expensive ships now to build. Talking hundreds of billions.
Well, probably more like 900 bill, approximately, I think, right now.
Jeez.
Huh? The hull is about 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah, but then you've got the cost of the blueprint, right? And
yeah, but they're dropping rapidly.
Yeah, doesn't that happen when you have kind of a closed system? Like if the build cost is cheap, the blueprint will cost a lot. But if the build cost is expensive, the blueprint has to come down in price in order to get sold.
Well, when CCP has designed these things, they look at how the blueprint is delivered and adjust accordingly. So like a Vendetta and the whatever the Galente Titan is, I can't remember, Vanquisher. Both of those blueprints are very easy to obtain. It's just Serpentis LP.
That's a Serpentis Titan, but yeah.
Right. So, well, anyway.
Yeah.
But they're easy to obtain. Therefore, the material requirements are just gigantic. But the Komodo and the Moloch and the Chemosh and the Dagon and all those, the blueprints are fairly hard to obtain. So they're basically a 0-0 blueprint, and they're not that difficult to build. However, this last industry update, when they refactored them, they still made them pretty close to a regular Titan, i.e. a 0-0 build. But because they're faction, they had the extra faction items added in. So it upped their cost and difficulty significantly, but still nowhere near a Vanquisher or a Vendetta. Those are still just onerous at best to build.
Right, the material cost. Nick, does this scare you? The amount of money, the numbers being thrown around? Nick?
Mike?
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I was chatting in the chat, but yeah, I'm listening to these folks talk about ships that, single ship worth more value than all 5 of my main accounts have. and I'm struggling to stay above X, and so it's like, wow.
Yeah. That
Well, the guy was.
go ahead.
It tells me they haven't lost everything enough times yet.
Well, this Komodo was caught gating, or very close to the gate. This was in Fraternity's, the heart of Fraternity's home, Fortac HWWF. So it's
Popular system.
but this is within range of, I believe, Caldari space, close to, somewhat close to Cheetah. So it's, by Fraternity moving here, it's a risky move. They get a lot of content by people wanting to be there, but they also put themselves at vulnerability because people can get here so quickly. However, yeah, it was caught. There's a video on it released by Snuffed Out. You can hear their comms and their FC frantically tell people to start bubbling towards the Keepstar as they get all their dreads on to kill it. But what I can say is the pilot who owns this Komodo, he is replacing it already, Plex-wise.
Yeah, I can confirm this.
Really?
Yeah, his next one, yeah, I think it's going to cost him about 800 bills, somewhere around there. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. Nick,
That's for the hull.
you and I, buddy, we're the everyman in this game. That's a lot of money. 800 billion. But anyway, so he was able to. So first of all, Snuff caught it, killed it. Komodo being super expensive, and then this guy was able to replace it in Fraternity. I think it's already replaced. Is that what you just said, Kenneth? That you can confirm it's already been replaced.
It's in the works.
It's,
Yeah, I don't have an extra Komodo. But I don't have like an extra Komodo sitting on the shelf just in case someone comes by. Hey, you got an extra Komodo? No, I'm not that space crazy.
I do know that somebody has middleman meddled a Komodo blueprint for him, so that's already in place whenever things begin in motion to get it replaced. So we shall see. Hopefully, I wish him the best next time and to be careful and not to lose it again.
Yeah, that's what I knew. I knew he already had a new blueprint, and I put in my 2 cents as far as, hey, if I built it, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is what I'm going to charge to put it together for you. I don't really care if he takes my offer or not, because that'd be a pain in the rumpus. But it'd be cool to build the first one, or under the new system. But yeah, I don't care that much.
This would be the first time that it's been built under this new system of really an immense amount more of, I call it ingredients, but sub-materials.
Yeah, I bought an Orca blueprint and like 2 other ships, because they were the only 3 ships that I had never built in the game. So I bought them and built them before the patch, so I could say I built every ship in the game. And now I'm going to go back through and rebuild every last one post-patch as well, eventually.
Hey, go ahead and stay out of the Orca. That's mine, damn it.
You got that market cornered, Nick?
Yeah, well, he used to. Well,
let's put it this way.
Not cornered.
I built it at 0-0, and I don't plan on researching that blueprint. It's just going to sit in a drawer somewhere. So, yeah, don't worry about that.
Appreciate it, man.
All right. Last thing
I can say that as for the dreads that were there, half of them made it out. The other half were promptly put down by the Fraternity forces, who immediately everybody logged in and did what they can to salvage what they could of the battle. Now, so half of the dreads got out.
Suicide dreads were no big deal before. Is it now a bigger deal than it was before? Obviously, in this case, those dreads are totally worth it. You killed an 800 billion ISK ship. You lost maybe 20. But are suicide dreads starting to become a thing of the past, or what's going on with that? Because of the new production prices?
This is one thing the CSM worked tirelessly on for the industry changes. All of the ratios are the same. So the number of dreads to the number of Titans and all before and after the changes are relatively the same. So the numeric numbers for a Gank are exactly the same. They're all just higher. So how much ever, like if a Titan if a dread costs 2.5 times what it did before, then the amount that you would lose is 2.5 times more, but your ratio of gank to killing the Titan is still exactly the same as it was, or very close. Now, when you put a Komodo in the mix, now your numbers are skewed heavily, because even before the patch, Komodo cost a lot more because of the blueprint. So your numbers are still skewed there. But the ratios are still pretty close to the same. So your equations are the same and your decision point is the same for a dread bomb. It's just at the end of the day, if you lose X number of dreads, it costs you a lot more. But your decision point of whether to jump in, whether you get the kill or whatever, is exactly the same as it was pre-patch.
The ratio didn't change.
Speaking to a few friends who have done a lot of use of suicide dreads, they have told me that there are still plentiful caches of dreadnoughts available, and there will be, at least for quite a while. Well, maybe not quite a while, but there will be for a while. There are a lot of stashes made before the industry changes came place. However, this is limited. It is finite. And it has become a bit expensive for them to consider just suiciding a bunch of dreads now. Because while they can kill the dreads and they can have a lot of fun, replacing it's a worry.
Well, we're getting different numbers here. Some people are saying that dreads are worth 8 billion now to build. Some people are saying 4, or maybe that's what they sell for.
Well, 4 is the price they're selling for, but 8 to 9 bill is the price it would cost to build them if you were to build a brand new one right now.
Yeah, prices have not caught up to the new production. So and the new materials haven't caught up to what it would take to produce in mass quantities like we used to. So it's a double slider. Like, one, what you can buy a dread for on the market isn't representative of what it costs to build, and what it costs to build isn't representative of the long-term cost, because the materials are still being gathered in enough quantities to support massive building.
I did look into it, and I found that to build some of these Titans now, the costs are obviously very different, but the biggest problem is, in some cases, there is literally not enough of the new components out in the market for you to build it. Unless you were able to get it some yourself, or you had some connections to people who would supply it directly to you.
A vast majority of that stuff does not go to JITA. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay, so someone from Snuff, I'm not sure if I can say his name, I probably can. I hope I don't get you in trouble, but Vertiso says he wasn't, this is the ship that was destroyed. He wasn't gating, he was actually shooting a Tempest.
Oh.
So he got caught, and Vertiso is a part of Snuff, so he was in on that kill, I suppose.
Thank you for confirming that then.
Yeah, sure. We'll have to have Vertiso on. I like listening to him, so we'll start bringing him on TIS if he's up for it. We're up for it too. And he's a direct source. He's a direct voice of stuff that happens. So finally, we got to Friday, and it was really all about Black Ops, and Rich chaired a show. I was trying out my engineering skills, and that was a pretty fun combo. And Rich invited Morg, and who were the guys you invited, Rich?
I invited a roster of esteemed guests. I managed to get Morglum, who does a lot of BLOPS dropping, particularly in low sec, and he has done BLOPS hunting in the past. He is from We Form Volta, and he mostly flies under the account Disco Dance now, but he used to be known under Morglum. I also managed to, let me just get their names correct.
Brian.
I got Parsible Watts, who is at Bombers by FC. I got him on to talk about how the changes to the Bombers, because, to me, I believe these changes would change how bomber fleets work, because now it was more encouraged to BLOPS in as a group together, and the Black Ops ship had far more use.
Right, and then you also got, I'll just finish it for you, Nth Dimensional, talk about some of the changes with what are they called? Covert Ops. And Gregorian talked a little bit about the Edencomm buff, the Edencomm ship that got buffed. And then finally, we had, I believe on that same show, we talked to Varian from Red versus Blue to talk about Ganked 500. Is that right? Is that same show?
No, that was the Pochven show that I
Oh.
talked to him about. Yeah.
Pochven, okay.
Yes, M-Dimensional is a streamer who does a lot of exploration, the data sites and relic sites, the hacking, and a lot of wormhole scanning. So,
yeah,
the changes to the whole changes to the covert op ships. Hopefully it changes how people see them and what they're going to use, especially the heavier Amar and Caldari covert op frigates.
Yeah. Okay,
One thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been getting quite a few questions. I just want to kind of address it.
Yes, that's what I was going to do. Go back to it. Go ahead.
CCP and the CSM. The CSM has referred to CCP that there's one ship missing off the covert ops list, and that's the pacifier. And yep, it's missing.
On purpose, I suppose. I thought you were going to go.
Is it on purpose?
I mean, the pacifier is already pretty decent. It already has a bunch of advantages over the other covert op ships. So
yeah, massive warp speed.
No,
I'm not trying to put anything into that. I'm just Suitonia's pretty. I just can't say it. But
notice that. Yeah. We did notice that, Matt, and we were curious if that was on purpose or if it wasn't.
Now we know. By design, it was left off because what Suitonia said, it was already pretty in a really
well, I mean,
it
would just be inflammatory, right? If CCP put in the patch notes pacifier, we've made no changes to the pacifier. It's just going to piss people off for no reason.
That's an interesting thing, right? Like, that'd be interesting decision on their point. Ignore it or say changes.
But we discussed the changes to the Black Ops, the new group jump feature. No more. If you want to get a friend, you have to set up the bridge and. Hopefully we see Black Ops ships being used more in combat and just less of a transport tool. It's a wonderful ship. I want to see them being used in combat more.
Well, it makes multi-boxing a lot easier too if you're like doing it with multiple accounts by yourself, because now you can just take like a Stradius or a Pilgrim or whatever else you would use to hunt with you at the same time as your main. It makes it really easy.
Well, we'll hit that.
Doing logistics.
Hold on.
And we're pulling 10 blockade runners with you.
We're going to hit that topic in just a second. First, I want to get back to Arsia, and now we're going to go into the stuff that was big this week. One is this Azbel kill in Pochven. It was the last of its type, and it can, no Azbel can actually be built. So, Arsia, would you tell us what happened in that fight and why it was important?
All right. So, the whole timer came up for the last Azbel in Pochven in Wirashoda this week. And on the attacking side of the force, the attacking forces consisted of Dreadbomb, RC, and like the RP Voltron coalition thingamabob that I'm in. And the defenders were Streebog and their assorted allies. And it was the largest fight in Pochven so far, I think. And we've said that like 2 or 3 times during this Pochven campaign. But anyway, the fight, it was a really, really bloody fight. A lot of losses on both sides. Pretty even, excluding the Azbel itself. The ship losses were pretty even between the two sides. And the numbers weren't really that uneven either, in my opinion. And it looked like it was going really well. It looked like the defenders were about to hold it after a really hard-fought battle. With the we got pushed off and we had to go back to reship a few jumps away, and RC and Dreadbomb got pushed off, and the structure was at like 19% when RC and Dreadbomb left.
RC is Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, Wrecking Crew and Dreadbomb. And it was like 5 minutes. And it was still counting down. We reshipped from our Cerberus fleet. We lost most of to our Typhoons, and we get to the in-gate to Wirashoda, and we see that all of our allies are gone, and the enemies are holding the field because they had the ability to keep reshipping in system, which was able to push us off. Because that reship advantage is really, really vital in a fight like that, because you can keep reinforcing yourself. And we decided this is worth just throwing the battleship fleet at it and losing the battleship fleet. So we jumped in, Commander Deep Spar gave the order because he's the Alliance executor and ultimately he pays for a lot of the Typhoons, him and Elizabeth. But we jumped in, we warped the Typhoons on to the Azbel, and we just started firing. They were a little slow to jump back on. We started firing at 19%, and it went down right to the wire where there were only a few Typhoons remaining when the thing exploded because you can't repair a structure. So we just kind of tried to spread out and shoot the Azbel. So they couldn't kill us all fast enough, and the Azbel went down. Since it can't be re-anchored, it is a loss of infinite value, and it was the last Azbel in Pochven, so it was a very significant objective and worth the battleship fleet in our estimates.
Yeah, like an Azbel is a shipyard, basically. It is a place where you build equipment, engineering complex. So what was it like after you destroyed that? Because I imagine that's a significant loss for them.
Comms went crazy. We had been fighting over this thing multiple times, and we had failed multiple times to destroy it. It had made it to hull timer before, and we were crushed pretty hard on the hull timer after they had an amazing form. But this time it was successful, and
well,
like we went nuts. Everybody was so happy, and like just the idea of we're throwing this battleship fleet into the fire, like this whole fleet just to get this objective, and then we get it. It's just like one of the most exciting things I've been part of even in my decade plus of playing. And I've been a part of a lot of exciting fights, but this is definitely way up there. And I think it probably will be for some time.
yeah.
There's been a couple of fights in Pochven since, so it's not like the fighting is over in Pochven. A few more structures were defended, and one went down to AAA. An Athenor went down in Harva to AAA yesterday in European time zone. But the other two structures in the system were saved after some confusing battles.
Well, Lord Omega there in the audience says best gaming moment in his life, I imagine.
Lord Omega, he's he's in our fleet. He's from the Voidlings Corp that live in the wormhole with the wormhole guys that we have. They're like roommates who share a hole.
Yeah, it's definitely.
So,
oh, go ahead.
is there any other large or extra large structures at all, or was this just the last Azbel?
There's a Tatara in the same system, and there's Fortizars. Like there's Fortizars all over the place.
Okay. So it's by no means cleaned out. This is just the last Azbel.
That was the last Azbel. There's tons of medium structures, the small ones. And there's Tatara in the same system and a bunch of Fortizars for the bigger system. So there's only one
but
more
you can't
Tatara.
build caps. You can't build caps
in
medium.
Pochven no matter what structure you have.
You couldn't unload the module?
It doesn't let you produce a cap. It doesn't let you bring a cap in the wormhole. Caps that were in the low-sec systems that became Pochven still exist, but they can't jump gates, so they're trapped within the one system they have. Werishoda used to be high-sec, so there's going to be no caps in Werishoda fights, ever.
Okay.
So that is a fight for the ages, I call it. This is one that will be remembered because it was so dramatic, and it had such value and intensity. And then to launch, literally sacrifice yourself by tackling the villain and falling over the cliff into the volcano is what happened there at the end.
We joked so hard about you guys stopping recording before the fight ended. Do you know that old meme picture of I think it's Truman holding the newspaper that says that the other guy won?
Yeah, Dewey wins.
We made one and we put like the headlines to the Chicago Daily Tribune. It was TIS and it's like Stribog saves Azbel, and it's just like all of our various alliance logos holding the paper.
So
that's the best meme I've seen out of it.
TIS
and it's totally at our expense.
Yeah. Well, TIS was writing with a pilot from Wrecking Crew who was familiar with the area, and we were watching through his camera. We couldn't broadcast it live, so we were recording it so that we could keep OPSEC for them. Otherwise, that was just a condition of filming. But literally, he was with Wrecking Crew, and Wrecking Crew called it. They said, we're done. They saved it. Let's move on. And they took off. And we were putting cameras away. We turned off the recorder. And then a few seconds later, it says, WTF? It's not over. And I was like, what? So I went back to watch, and sure enough, you guys, I wish somebody had caught the voice comms on that, because the excitement must have been palpable.
God, it was. We might have a recording. I'm not sure if somebody recorded. I usually don't in the big fights because I'm a multi-boxer, and I don't want to put more stress on my PC.
Yeah. All right. Well, good fight. Amazing ending. That was in Pochven. It's obviously heating up. I wonder what the fight will be like for that Suitonia.
The Tatara.
Oh, Tatara. Yeah. Sorry.
There's no Suitonia.
Sorry. I thought it was Sutia. So, okay. So it's a moon mining platform. Okay. Well, let's go on to real quick. CSM, you're all familiar with it. You're all running. You're all, in our opinion, highly qualified. And we've all endorsed you from Talking Stations. Right, Nick? We endorse them. And
I personally don't care for many of them, but present company accepted, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't voted yet, get out there and do it. Your time's running short.
Yeah.
You've only got about 40 hours or so before the polls close, right? You have to do it before Tuesday downtime.
Yeah, consider Monday, tomorrow, your last day to do it. And if you haven't voted, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. You may not think it does, but it makes a difference. So, vote for your gameplay style or for the qualifications of these guys. We also have Dr. Spot and Teddy, who are not here today, but those were the 6 that are running from TIS. But something weird happened. Goonswarm and the Imperium came out and said, puppies, we're going to do this ourselves. Let's see how many people we can get in. So they said, we're only going to put our guys in on this ballot. So that's who they're voting for. And I think as a reaction to that, Pappy saw that as a challenge and said, we're going to show them that we can dominate CSM too. And they were basically talking to each other, setting up their voting lists to in a strategic way. They were colluding to get as many Pappy leaders into CSM as they could. That's what's going on now. Arsia made that list, which was interesting, from all these groups. And then
I'm way down on the list.
But you're still there.
Yeah.
So if you get enough votes up front, some number 1 votes, if you get enough of those, you can stay in long enough to inherit.
Yeah, there's a path to victory if the Minmatar militia and RP people and other various people can keep me in long enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised to see my name.
NTIS
basically
fans.
The Kenneth Feld program from last year.
Yeah, that's how you got in, and it worked.
I was just scooting along, and then I got 250 transfers, 900 transfers, 700 transfers, and then poof, I was in.
It works. If you can last long enough, those will catch up and get in there. Now, something weird happened in the middle of this because Pappy was solidified, and then last second, Rich Richmond asks Noros to put him on. Noros wants to put him on at number 1. I think he gets a lot of pushback, Noros does, from other Pappy leaders who are like, why are you messing this up? And lo and behold, Kenneth ends up being at the top of fraternity's list with Rich as number 2.
I think that's going to work out nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kenneth is basically guaranteed to get on now, right? If you compare, if you look at Winneco's ballot from CSM 15, they actually had they had like I think 1,476 votes for their specific Wintercoat ballot.
Yeah,
plus like another like 600 or something from like an alternative ballot.
That's more than just fraternity. That is Winter Coalition, and the ballot that they put out is for Winter Coalition. So we expect similar numbers, 1,400 or so, maybe more. So and PL and NC also have Kenneth at the top of their list. So if things go the way they should, Kenneth, you have a pretty promising chance to return as an incumbent. And all 3 here, including Spod, I think, have a wild card chance of getting in, if not better. But all of you guys are in contention. There's nobody here that is definitely not getting on, basically. a good spot to be. We'll see what happens. I guess it always depends on the votes.
It scares me.
There's a lot of good candidates this year.
It's hotly contested this year for the wildcard candidates. Really hotly contested.
Yeah. Well, good luck to everybody. So that's CSM. Remember, if you're hearing me, and we're going to publish this as quickly as possible today, vote right now. You will forget, and the election will be over. So get in there and vote. And we recommend, of course, Arsia, Suitonia, Kenneth, Rich, and of course, people who aren't here is Dr. Spod and from Wormholes, Teddy, GTC or something.
Yeah,
GTC something.
wormholes, they really need to work together. They're never going to get anyone on if they keep the 17 candidates above the wormhole guys. They really need to coalesce to a certain degree and get someone that they can all get behind, even if they don't like them.
It seems like they are a lot more unified this year.
No, I think they're still deeply divided. Deeply divided.
For sure, but there's there's at least, it seems like more of a consensus and more of people who are, there are people who are voting for Phantomite over like actual wormholers because they don't like the actual wormholers, but they're still putting the wormholers on their ballot, even though they're in 6th place or something. But
that's different.
Like the previous year, the people who voted for Azuki didn't even put Loraseko on their ballot, and the people who voted for Loraseko didn't even put Azuki on their ballot for the most part.
Either one of them would have won.
Now it seems,
but you need to have enough number ones to get you to the point of transferring some of those other ones. And I don't know that too many of them are going to have it this year. And yeah, for the guys in chat, yes, I know they're trying. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, Loraseko would have got elected if the Azuki votes transferred to him, but I think Phantomite wouldn't have if that was the case. So
yeah,
either way, there would only have been 3 independent candidates. Sorry, forgetting about Mike Azariah.
Right. Well, it will be interesting. What was I going to say? We're trying to unify wormholers by pissing them off. So Talking in Stations is working vigorously to become the lightning rod that unites the two camps in wormhole space.
There's only 2?
Or yeah, basically there's 2. There's like the power players, and then there's everybody else in wormholes. Right,
yeah, but amongst the power players, I think there's 2 or 3 little slivers there, which is most of the problem.
There are the C2 wormholers who are given the title wormholer but not a seat on the council, and then there are the other wormholers who are given a seat on the council and the title of a wormholer.
All right.
Those are the high-class wormholers.
Okay, well, the last thing we want to cover today before we finish up are these Black Ops changes along with Covert.
Oh, before we go on, Matterall, as for the opposing side of the Pochven fights, I managed to get... we had a show with Sahara Jackal and Zeramus Plague, who were both on the opposing side, on the Pochven resident side of the battle in Wirashoda, and they spoke about, just how hair thin the fight was, and how they didn't expect the battleships, and how when they rushed to try and kill the battleships as soon as possible. But everybody had fun. To my knowledge, there was very little tie-dye. There are no capital support there. No tie-dye. No capitals.
No crime watch.
There was a straight-up slugging brawl. It was vicious.
Sahara Jackal, who's one of the FCs there, Delightful, was just expressing how much fun they had too. Even though they lost at Azbel, it was a huge fight for them too. They had a great time, as did Zero or Zeramus, who is hilarious. Did you guys see that episode? Because he looks and acts like Ashtarothi Part 2, like new and improved, except he's got like dreads and a giant beard, and he speaks in riddles.
10 years younger.
And maybe he's younger, but that guy was fun. So you should check that out.
It was great to hear the dynamics of Pochven, how some of the original invaders, like Roque Capel, who came in seeking to establish themselves there and find some content and enjoyment there, they actually sided with the Pochven residents against the new wave of intruders, the ones who came when the standing for the gates were removed.
Right. Okay, let's jump into this last section, which I'm sure people are eager to hear your thoughts, Suitonia and everybody else. Black Ops, what's going on here?
Oh, so CCP are making some changes to Black Ops. So the main one is that they've taken the roll bonus of the cloak velocity speed. Black Ops used to have, all of them used to have a bonus on the Black Ops hull that improved their speed while cloaked. They've basically just baked that into the hull and given it to every Black Ops for free as a roll bonus. And then they've all given all of the Black Ops new bonuses on that Black Ops skill level slot. And then specifically with the Sin and the Panther, which had kind of just weird utility mobility bonuses. The Sin had an agility bonus and the Panther had a speed bonus. Those have also just been baked into their hulls respectively, and they now have new bonuses too. So the Sin is getting a 10% bonus to logistic drone amount, which is kind of weird but interesting. People used to they've also buffed the damage bonus on the Sin, and as well as a lot of the other ones. It's kind of weird though, because if you were solo or hunting, in a small scale, you generally were using newts on a Sin, and with a group, you're fitting remote reps in the high slots mostly, and you're using the drones for DPS. So going to Logi drones is kind of weird, but the Sin was always probably the most used Black Ops out of the group. It was by far the most versatile one. The Panther is getting tracking and fall off bonuses, and its damage bonus is getting increased as well. So the Panther will be able to apply and track a lot better. The Redeemer is getting a huge damage bonus. It's getting its rate of fire bonus set to 10% per level, which is a double damage bonus. Actually, it has more damage than an Abaddon now, which is kind of crazy. CCP also buffed the base cap on it a little bit to compensate for that. And it got the new bonus that it got was a 10% bonus to Newt and NOS amount. So you can kind of use it like a Newting Legion or something. So it's almost as strong as the Balgon, but you don't get the Balgon NOS bonus. So that's pretty interesting. And the Widow, specifically the Widow, got a 4% shield resistance bonus per level. CCP also buffed the damage and the ECM strength bonus on it as well. So the Widow is going to be tankier. It will be able to you could do some stuff right where you could use it to hunt supers. You have maybe 2 Widows or something, and they both jam some heavy fighters each, and with their resist bonuses it's going to be a lot easier to keep them alive, and they're going to be just a lot more consistent too.
Rate of fire bonus too for the missiles.
Yeah, I think it already had that. It got buffed from 5 to 7.5%. It might have been a flat damage bonus before, but yeah, it got a damage boost just like all of the other ones.
I managed to bring on some people who have done a lot of BLOPS hunting and using BLOPS ships, and they're really excited for this change. The Widow, they speculate, could potentially start biting at the toes of the Sin for the best solo BLOPSer with its new shield bonus, and with just how strong torpedoes are following the torpedo buff a while back.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I've actually heard a lot of wormholers get super excited about the Widow now too, because once these be changed to Tengu, people used to use jam goos all the time. You still do see them in wormhole space, but when they readjusted the slot layouts on Tengus, I think you can only get 2 low slots on a jam goo now, so you can't really get a big tank on it like you used to be able to fit, like a 1600 play and get some decent tank onto a jam goo, but now it's a lot weaker. But you can use especially in like maybe a pulsar or something, you can get like a solid tank on a Widow.
I'm glad to see some of the changes because I've spoken to other people who've been flying the BLOPS. The Redeemer change, the whole increase in damage, and the fact that it could be used as essentially a jumpable Balgorn is really cool. What do you think?
I mean, it's also jumpable Paladin because it does like 1.7k DPS.
Oh yeah, and the Panther damage increase is huge because before this, people were fitting artilleries on the Redeemer because it had more turrets. It dealt pretty much almost equal damage. It just had better fittings and overall stats. There was no reason to use a Panther at all. So hopefully with this change, people actually use the Panther. What do you think of the group jump? Because
like we mentioned earlier, I think it's really it's going to be really interesting. I think it's a huge quality of life if you're solo and multi-boxing. I think it's also going to be really nice for doing like quick hits as well. So, for example, when Volta was staged in Thera, a lot of the time we'd jump through a hole, and then do a quick Black Ops bridge onto guys. But when you crash through a wormhole and you're all jumping, you have to wait like 20 seconds for bombers to reapproach the Black Ops. But now, since there's a 10-kilometer radius, like when you just jump through a wormhole, almost everyone's going to be within 10k of that Black Ops straight away. So you can just go straight away. So it's going to make hitting targets like a lot quicker too in that kind of situation. And you previously would have to wait for the bridge effect to end before you could jump the BLOPS itself. So when you have limited number of people and the Black Ops is necessary as a combat ship to secure kills, then you're going to be able to just jump it in straight away.
A lot of BLOPS hunters, one of the infamous ones would be Marcel. He uses a Loki. He uses, I believe, a combination of a Dicta, a Covert Ops frigate as the Sino, and a Loki and a Sin. Before he would tackle something with his Sino in the Loki secures it, then he jumps in the Sin, which because he had to use it to bridge. Now he can just jump in the Sin and the Loki at the same time, so this is pretty deadly. However, I do know that there is still a use for the bridge. You cannot jump in the BLOPS and a huge fleet at the same time. I haven't confirmed, and we don't know what specifically how many ships can group jump at the same time.
I can talk about that for a sec if you want.
You can.
I'm going to read this exactly from the dev. It is currently at 10. Though that is just a placeholder number for testing, and you can say this. So that is allowed to be said. Right now, it's the Black Ops plus 10 and or Black Ops plus 9. I'm not really sure. But if you're interested, there is a mass test on Tuesday at 1700 game time specifically to test this group jump feature. So if you want to know more about it, and there should be an update to Sissy probably tomorrow, maybe Tuesday, for some of the bugs that they found, that kind of stuff. And then the mass test will be after that.
I'm interested in this now because I'm thinking fleets, instead of being just say mass legions and one Black Ops ship, we would see something like 3 Black Ops ships and 30 legions in all these funny ratios. I'm interested in how this is.
The other thing is, the group jump uses set fuel. So if you bridge, each ship uses whatever fuel for its mass and distance, right? But if you group jump, it's a single chunk of fuel for everybody. So it's much, much more efficient to group jump.
But the
for those of us that don't do the, that aren't as familiar with the Black Ops like me, can the jump, does it have to originate in low and no, or can it actually originate in high, like a jump freighter can
You
start
can
there?
you can jump out of high sec.
Yeah, you can jump out of high sec. You just can't jump into high sec. It's the same as a jump freighter or any.
Yeah, so the staging is that way. That's kind of cool.
I've definitely bumped some high sec before.
You can also jump out of Pochven, because you can't jump into Pochven, but what's curious is while Pochven, the systems are kidnapped far, far away, their location is still there. So if you're hunting in an area that is close to where Wirashoda used to be, then you can stage in Wirashoda. You could jump out of Pochven into K-Space and start hunting there. So it creates a wide network for you to potentially BLOPS using.
And no way for people to look at you too, like the low sec area that used to be in Lone Trek, whichever one that was, by Tazy or somewhere in that area. You could have an entire fleet sitting in there with no way someone would have eyes on you, and then jump out and into a fight, and everybody's like, "Hey, where the heck did these guys come from?" And you just came from Pochven.
However, this does mean that for massive, massive bomber fleets, they cannot use a group jump feature. They are still relegated to using the Black Ops ship as a form of transport and having fuel trucks.
Maybe. 10 is a placeholder.
10 is a placeholder.
10 could be 200 next week.
I
I
do
mean,
like
the,
even if it was 100 or something, right? You still need to risk the Black Ops by using the group jump, which is something you might not want to do if you're jumping like 100 bombers onto some super that you have tackled or something, because that BLOPS is probably not gonna last too long in that case.
Definitely
Hey,
do
but
like the mechanic that encourages them to send the Black Ops.
Hey, but Suitonia, now people want to use a Redeemer in the battle because you can fully fit it with newts. You can have basically a Balgorn blop straight onto someone.
Nick, did you want to get in there?
Yeah, I mean that's cool.
nope, I'm good.
Okay, me too.
As for the damage increases, speaking with other BLOPS pilots, including Morglum on on the BLOPS episode I ran, they like it. However, they're worried there's not a lot of targets for Black Ops ships to be used against.
Has anyone done the math on if you use Redeemers now with a full rack of newts, how many Redeemers it would take the one cycle to cap off of a super?
I know.
Oh,
I mean,
interesting.
people probably done that, like dedicated super hunters.
But I mean, that's what you're looking for, right? That's the goal. You
Yeah.
want to jump in something in one cycle to super, turn off its hardeners, and then take it down like yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, but yeah.
Yeah. Whale hunting with Black Ops sounds interesting. That's if that becomes a thing.
The Covert Ops frigates have received some necessary changes, some luxury changes. The Helios can now fit it's got an increased high slot, so now it can fit an interdiction nullifier module. And the Anathema, Buzzard, and Cheetah all received extra low slots. But their ability to be used in combat is gone. No more combat Buzzard. You're going to have to stick to a combat Heron now. And they
Well, I mean,
have...
no one was using the combat buzzard, dude. Like, it used to get a 5% bonus to like kinetic missile damage and 5% rate of fire. It was like a complete trash, and the buzzard only had like 2 like rocket launchers or whatever anyway. So, I mean, it lost 7 DPS, I think.
There goes
Yeah.
there goes my dream of a BLOPS anathema fleet.
I'm pretty sure the Heron already outdamaged the buzzard. So
they have a 15% less capacity needed to initiate warp. That's pretty good for Thera.
Thank God for that.
Why? Thank God for that. Hold on, explain that.
Okay, so Covert Ops have really terrible base capacitor amounts, and so whenever you're warping anything over about 80 light years away, you would almost always have to do a second warp. And there are some really bad systems like XTAC 770 in Pure Blind or Thera, where
Huge
you can
systems.
easily have like 200 AU warps where you have to like warp your Covert Ops like 3 separate times across the system, and it was just really annoying. And so what that bonus effectively does is because you need frigate level 5 to fly the ship, of course, is that you use 1/4 of the normal capacitor, so you should almost always be able to make a warp even in one of the biggest systems now.
I believe you can make all of them.
Yeah, unless it's like some like super weird bookmark that you have or something.
Right. Yeah. When I say all of them, I mean any system you would enter through a gate and leave through another gate. If someone puts a jump portal or something out in the middle of nowhere, yeah, you're on your own. But there's a system in Venal too that's really stupid large.
I think 9TAC2 or something.
Yeah, it's like right at the crossroads.
It's like It's like 280 AU or something.
Wow.
There's some giant ones in the Great Wildlands too.
Well, so let me just clear
Yeah,
some
you
things
could
up.
warp your Titan across there, go get a drink, go to the bathroom, come back, you're still in warp.
Go watch a movie.
Let's clear some things up for people who are a little less experienced. But Black Ops, and I should have done this at the very beginning, but Black Ops are battleships that can open a bridge for other covert ops to go through. And so we're talking about a patch that changed the Black Ops battleships so they could all jump together, which they couldn't do before. Or, and we're also talking about covert ops, which are these other ships that Rich was just listing off. And these had capacitor problems because they're small frigate-sized ships. So they couldn't sometimes get across these really expansive systems. And so that capacitor bonus, where they're very efficient at using capacitor, will get them all the way across these long and big systems. And that just speeds up the gameplay for them.
They've also gotten some luxury life changes with the Helios and the Cheetah, the Galente and the Mimitar getting increased cloak velocity, making them a lot more slippy. And for the heavier duo, the Amar and the Caldari sets, the Anathema and Buzzard, they've got a bonus to scan deviation, which is huge. So, Tony, I know you did a bit of scanning on your stream. What covert ops frigate did you use for scanning?
Oh, I was using the Astero, which didn't actually get
Oh.
buffed in this patch.
Yeah, that was left off. Is it not?
But
Is that not considered covert ops? The Astero?
no,
Maybe
it's
more.
not a covert ops. It's a pirate faction frigate. It's classified as a Tech 1 frigate. Although it can still, even though it's a Tech 1 frigate, you can still use a Black Ops bridge to move it around.
So-
You
So
can use a
Kinda
bridge.
like
they
the
can't. They can't
pacifier.
light a covert Sino though. The sisters
Yeah, they
lead.
can't light
anymore.
the Sino, but they
But they can
be
take the
bridged.
bridge. Yeah. So if you have an alpha character who wants to BLOPS, you can put them in like a Stratios.
Oh, that's really good to know. Okay, go ahead.
I like these changes because previously the Helios and Buzzard were the only ones most of the people use, but now there's a choice between, do you want something that's better at scanning or do you want something that's more slippy? And the
Yeah,
Buzzard
and
is
you
already
also have now. You now have like the same kind of slot balance as the stealth bombers. You know, like how the Manticore and Nemesis had one more mid over the Purifier and Hound, which have one more low. You now got the same thing because previously the Helios used to be the best one for scanning because it had 5 mids and 3 lows, whereas the Buzzard only had 2 lows, and the Helios was just faster than the Buzzard. And then the other ones only had 4 mids and 3 lows, so they were all like down 1 mid and low slot over the Helios. So the Helios was always the best like pure thing. Although the Helios, because it didn't have that extra high, it couldn't do covert Sinos as well as the cloak and the expanded probe launcher, which was a big downside if you were trying to do hunting with it.
I have to say the Buzzard, I'm excited to see it because it's a scan buff. The Buzzard is very commonly used for blopsing because of its mid slots. It'll be able to fit a prop mod, a scram, a web, and even a ship scanner, so you can see if the target is ripe for the kill. And now it's got a bonus to scan deviation. That's beautiful.
Yeah, should we explain what scan deviation is briefly, I guess, if people don't know what it is? But it's not actually like a bonus to raw strength. You'll probably probe SIGs about the same speed as before. But what it does is when you probe something, you don't have it at 100%. There's that little red dot that appears. That's like an approximate of where the SIG is. That'll basically just be more accurate. It'll be more closer to where the actual SIG is, and it might actually make you scan faster if you're able to go. What you can do is you can go down 2 probe sizes. Normally, when you're scanning, you do like an 8 AU scan, and you go down to 4 AU, then you go down to 2 AU until you slowly get it onto the SIG. Whereas now you could maybe with that scan deviation bonus, maybe you could go straight from 8 to 2 or something. That's why it might be significant. But otherwise, it's just a sort of quality of life probing bonus.
Okay, just a couple minutes. Go ahead, Kenneth.
Well, the other thing is too, I think this is the first time the hull bonus has been. They've had a hull bonus for that, and it will stack with the implant too. So if you have the implant on top of that, because the implant's just a percent, so it will percent on top of that. So this is the first time we've really had a scan deviation, bonus other than that implant, and I think it's going to be a lot bigger than people think in the long run.
Oh, cool. All right, just one last change here. Edencom got a bit of a buff. Arsia, you're a big pilot, fleet commander for Edencom. Your ship line got a buff. What happened there?
So the Edencom ships, the number of targets that the Vorton projectors bounce to is being doubled, which is it effectively doubles the damage over the course of the. Obviously, the single target damage isn't changing from that, but that's going to be a pain in the butt for Logi, right? Especially where if you bring him into Pochven, where you have reduced locks, and you're now hitting 10 targets instead of 5. So it went from 5 targets where it would bounce to 5 different targets. It now bounces to 10. Now, if you're brawling, it's hitting lanes too. So if you're brawling, it's probably more of it's equal of downside. But if the Edencom ships, which have fantastic range, are far away like they should be, then you're hitting enemy fleets, and possibly friendly drones, but hopefully mostly the enemy fleets. There's a lot of weird little things about the mechanics of the Vorton projectors. Like, if you're using them in a high-sec war, they can only hit the valid targets of your safety set rate. So you can ensure that you're not hitting wrong things like that. Or you can avoid friendly fire like that if you turn off friendly fire of your corporation in a high-sec war. So
that's a good tip. That's a good tip.
That's a good tip if you're using them there. I've actually seen them used really well in high-sec because of that. Phoenix Naval Systems was really good at taking advantage of that. But yeah, like going from 5 to 10 targets effectively doubles the DPS over the course of the fleet. The one thing of note is that it's hard to spread E-War that increases projection. So I wonder how good it's going to be for the Thunderchild, but I think it's going to be really, really good for the Stormbringer and the Skybreaker, which are the cruiser and the frigate. I feel like the Thunderchild might have some application issues, but maybe it's going to be strong enough to see more of them, because they have been underused. Only a few groups seem to use them. And I personally like the Zappy-Bois. I am totally down with the Zappy-Bois.
The Zappy-Bois are the Stormbringers? Or
the Edencom, all the Edencom.
All of them have guns.
All of them, okay.
Yeah.
What about,
I thought Zappy-Bois was the small one, but okay.
What against drone compositions, drone boat fleets?
Well, if the drones are on you and you're shooting them, you're not hitting their drones, but
drones in motion,
you can clear drones faster you're shooting them. Yeah, sentry.
I mean, you can clear them fast, but it depends on where the drones are. Like, if they're on top of you, you're going to chain bounce to your own guys. So it's good at killing sentries or like drones as they're coming in. But like once the drones are actually on you, it's like probably going to do more harm than good shooting them.
I still think that the cruisers at least should get a utility high, and maybe the battleship should get one or two more. Something like smart bombs would be good on them, or newts and such. Mostly smart bombs, because they are supposed to be at long range.
Well, I wonder how they're going to start clearing out the abyssal sites now that they've got an effective bubble.
That's the elephant no one's talking.
We should be back.
Come back on.
Yeah.
Come back on to say we're and that's the show for today.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's like come back.
Yeah, I got a commercial.
If there's no more questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now.
All right. Sorry about that. Ran out of capacitor. You're right. Ran out of capacitor, and something about my internet after an hour and a half decides who wants to.
Yeah, TIS tried to warp across Terra, and we ran out of capacitor.
Manor will just shut down the stream as soon as anyone talks about PvE.
Yeah.
It turns out he has got a lot of investment in Abyssal PvE. We were talking about how with the increase in Vorton Projector, max targets hit from 5 to 10, you can now do Abyssal sites a lot faster, PvE sites. And there's a video of someone doing a T5 in 9 minutes.
Matterall's got a stock of like electrical T5, so he wants to like go up in price before people.
The good point Suitonia made is that the Edencom's ships will still struggle with the rooms they're struggling with, but they might do the rooms they were good at a little bit faster and make up some of that time. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think they're doing them a bit faster, to be honest with you, but that's just what I heard.
A lot of bits faster. All right. Well, again, sorry for the interruption. We'll put the show together and stitch it for our podcast guys. They won't know anything happened. But you viewers live, apologize for that. But we are out of time, and we need to wrap up. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to quickly mention?
Tuesday, 1700. Mass test for BLOPS on Sissy. There should be an update to Sissy before then to fix a few of the issues. And the mass test is mostly going to be for testing the group jump feature. I don't know what they're going to have it set at. I don't know if they can change it during the mass test, but they're definitely going to be testing the group jump feature.
I think that Lunarisa Aspenstar and Kimi Harar's Capsuleer rating contest is the winners are being announced. I think that's today. It's either today or very, very soon. So if you submitted to the Capsuleer rating contest, that's an annual event that goes on with ISK prizes. Look out to see who won
Cool.
what prizes.
Thank you, Arsia. All right, Arsia, Kenneth, Rich, Suitonia, Nick, thank you guys very much. Thank you, audience, for coming and watching the show. Nice numbers today. I also want to say Talking in Stations is receiving support from our Patreons. Also, we have on our YouTube channel, you can join the club there as well. And that gives you some bonus stuff inside of the Discord. And of course, we really appreciate it as we need to buy equipment in order to get past some of these technical hurdles that we run into. So if you can help us out, we'd really appreciate it. And if you can't, it's understandable. Just give us a good rating or a rating that you like on wherever you listen to podcasts so that people can look this up a little bit easier than they can. Thank you guys all very much for hanging out with us today, and we will see you next time for more Talking in Stations.
Don't forget to vote, people.